Welcome back to You Ask, We Answer, where we take your questions from our site and answer them on video. The first question today is from Roscoe, who asks, Droid or iPhone? Why? Well, I'm an iPhone for several reasons, first of which I'm on a contract with AT&T, and if I cancel it, I have to pay them a bunch of money. I don't want to do that. But second of all, I still think the iPhone is a better phone. I really enjoy being able to use multi-touch pinch zooming on pictures, on maps, on the web. There's things about it that are just more elegant than Google Android is right now. Google has definitely made major advances, and Android is looking more and more impressive every day, and today we will see more of that when they unveil the new Google phone. But for me, it's still the iPhone, and another reason, which I answered on the site in comments last week, is because I'm already about several $100s into the hole on iPhone apps. And Google's App Store, while growing, is still not nearly where the Apple's is. Most of the apps I use on an everyday basis, the Kindle app, Instapaper, these things are not available on Android yet. I imagine someday many of them will be, but for now it's still iPhone for me. Looking forward to seeing what Apple comes out with this summer, and then I'll make a decision whether to continue on the Apple path or see what Google's offering at that point, depending on carriers and apps and things like that. Next question from Sam Goldbricker. Will the iPod Classic non-touchscreen iPod products be phased out? Eventually, probably many of them will be phased out. I think the Nano is probably one that will last the longest. The iPod Classic is obviously only still around because a few people need to have, 100 gigabytes of storage space. It probably doesn't cost Apple too much money to keep those things around. I doubt they have a huge inventory, and I doubt they stock very many. Obviously, they're still selling enough to keep them around because they keep making minor tweaks to them. But as Apple has said, the non-touch parts of the iPod line are a declining business, and that means they'll eventually be phased out. You saw they added video to the iPod Nano last year. I imagine they'll keep adding stuff to it, and they might keep it around for a while. It could go down to $99 or even cheaper. But eventually I do expect non-touch iPods to be phased out in favor of maybe a smaller iPod Touch, cheaper, things like that. Sam Goldbricker also asked, what's the best name for Apple's tablet? And would you buy one if the tablet costs around $1,000? The names that are out there right now, the first name I came up with over a year ago was iPod Touch HD. That was because of some other old Apple product, I believe the Cinema Display HD, which they came out with. I have no idea what they're going to call the Apple tablet. They're not going to call it Apple Tablet. I highly doubt they're going to call it iSlate, which is a name that's been bouncing around. It's a very old trademark that Apple has. iBook is another name that's been tossed around. Of course, Apple used that to call some laptops years ago, and they could bring it back, but I think they wouldn't do that if it's just a tablet form factor. If it's a folding book, maybe someday, but I don't see that happening. So what are they going to call it? I don't know. Of course, it depends if this is going to be part of the iPhone and iPod product line, or if this is going to be part of the Mac product line, or if this is going to be an entire separate product line. So there could be a totally new series of names for this thing. Remember that Apple called the Apple TV the iTV originally. So I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff that could be possible there. What's the best name? Steve Jobs will find the best name. I'm confident in that. Would you buy one if it's $1,000? I have to buy one no matter what because I've been talking about it for so long and I have to see what the real deal is. Will most people buy it if it's $1,000? No, unless it's a really, really good laptop replacement. If you could get a $1,000 Apple tablet instead of a $1,200 MacBook or something like that, that might be something that people are interested in. But for it to be a mainstream device, it's going to have to be a lot cheaper, $500, $600. Maybe that includes a subsidy for a wireless contract if you can get talked into buying 2 years of 3G service or something like that. But $1,000 will be too high for a mainstream, just a straight-up tablet, especially as people compare them against netbooks and Kindles and similar things that are a lot cheaper. Redbeard asks, do you think iPhone apps will run on the Apple tablet? If so, will it be reformatted for full screen or in a small window? Good question. The latest speculation from John Gruber, who writes an Apple site called Daring Fireball, is that there will be a third flavor of OS X for the tablet. That is, it's not going to run straight up Mac OS X, and it's not going to run iPhone OS. So there could be an emulator where it runs apps in a small window, and you touch a button and it becomes full screen. It's possible that but probably unlikely that the existing apps will just run full screen as is, because that would be very awkward to have the huge back button, an inch tall on a 10 or even a 7-inch screen. So Apple obviously wants to keep the App Store model in play here. That's worked very well for them. But I think that developers will have to, and probably will be willing to reformat their apps, or at least tweak them a little bit, possibly rewrite some of them, using similar APIs for this new device. But I don't think it's just going to be the same App Store that we have already. That doesn't really make much sense, at least as far as user interface goes. Mara Marie asks, what is this year's big story? AOL, Google, Twitter, Facebook. It's hard to pinpoint one big story for every year, but I think two of the big stories that we're going to be kind of watching very closely is, this tabletification of read media. I don't want to say print media because it's not printed out anymore, but media that you read. I don't think that tablets and Kindles are going to keep people subscribing to magazines and newspapers. I wouldn't. I would read stuff that's available for free on the web, but you can bet I'm not going to pay even 15 bucks a year for a magazine. If maybe they'll move some of their content off the web that's for free, but whatever. I mean, you get it from someone else. It's not like Sports Illustrated has a monopoly on sports coverage these days. Another big story, I think, is going to be what's happening with web TV this year, because Comcast is taking, the majority stake in NBC. We'll see what happens with Hulu. There's only 2 episodes of 30 Rock on Hulu last time I watched it. That was a real pain. There's nothing to watch on there. There's going to be all kinds of issues with TV everywhere, which is, the cable industry's prayer that you're going to keep subscribing to cable in order to watch video on demand online. There's going to be more mobile stuff, and still have the same problem we did last year and the year before, which is online advertising just simply can't pay for programming the way that TV advertising and subscription revenue did. So, so far, people have not en masse unsubscribed from cable. I have, and many of the people I know have. So watch out for that. I do think it's a bigger problem than the cable companies are willing to admit, but so far has not become a mainstream problem. When it does, and when someone, perhaps Apple, comes out with a subscription service for online on-demand TV, a good bundle of it, then you have to start watching out, because then the distribution part will be there, the content will be there, and the subscribers might come after that. Coming up at the end here, also from Mara Marie, is HTML5 going to change the world? Are you looking into it for future functionality on TBI websites? Currently, not right now. Eventually, we will. HTML5 is, like all other previous versions of HTML, supposed to make it so that a web page can be the same on every browser, in the world. Of course, that's never the case. As a CSS programmer, I know plenty of hacks I've had to work for getting things to look right on a Microsoft Internet Explorer. One of the big things about HTML5 is that supposedly you'll be able to put video in a way that you don't need Flash. That's not as simple as it sounds either. Different browsers support different kinds of video. There's all kinds of stuff going on. HTML5, I would love it to be awesome. I'm not quite sure it's going to be awesome right away. And also, are there elements of the site that TBI would like to roll out soon? Of course there are. What are they? I can't tell you. I can tell you some of the things we've done recently. We've been adding more features to our comments, and also on slideshows, on our feature slideshows, you can now toggle between slides using the right and left arrows on your keyboard. So if you're tired of clicking the mouse button, just hover your finger over your right and left buttons on your keyboard, and that's a neat little trick that'll help you zoom through those feature slideshows more quickly. That's it for this week. Again, next week we'll have instructions up for how you can contribute questions to this segment. This has been You Ask, We Answer. Thanks for watching.